Mauricio, how are you?
How are you, my friend Nestor? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Good to see you. And just want to say, what an amazing convention, man. Nobody does it like the WBC for sure.
Well, it was humbling to see the whole world come together and work so much, and also have lots of fun and make sure that the world of boxing keeps moving forward, trying to make boxing safer and better all the time.
So, based off the convention, it sounds like you're going to be separating women's and men's moving forward.
Well, we have had the women's division since 2004. We have worked very hard to make sure that women compete safely under good rules. We have worked very hard with many promoters, television managers, trainers, with sponsors to bring the power of women where they deserve to be. And this has been last year was the turnaround with great success. Kerry Taylor Serrano in Madison Square Garden, Clarissa Shields in O2 Arena, and just a great activity. And we have also we discussed at length the rules for women's boxing. Basically, we have a lot of information, research, and data that secure women. So we discussed at length the matter of the 2 minute rounds and the 12 round for women. And basically, we cannot move in any of those two because of safety. And at that time, we also discussed transgender, the very complicated matter in sports. And it was decided that the WBC would never allow a born man to fight against a born woman, regardless of the current sexuality. But at the same time, with the inclusion that we always profess, we have started a process to create guidelines and a platform for transgender athletes. So we have formed a committee. We're working on specifics. Enrollment will be the first process to see who will enroll, how many athletes in the world are fighters that would like to compete in this transgender structure, and we will see what happens this year.
So, do you have any numbered amount just from your own, I guess, dealings of any transgender boxers that have come and asked the WBC for help? Is there a market, or are you just preparing for what's to come?
We are preparing because we don't know the universe of athletes, of boxers. We have seen with great concern uh, situations in other sports, and that's why boxing has to step forward and start preparing. Uh, not to put aside transgender, but invite him. Whoever is transgender and wants to compete, we will have a platform for them to do it safely with guidelines and rules. So it has caught a great attention worldwide. Some complicated matters outside of sports, but we're very confident that this is an opportunity to give transgender athletes an opportunity to compete.
And just to double back, you said at this time you don't have enough data to make a decision on whether you're doing 3 minute rounds or 12 2 minute rounds for female boxing?
Yeah, absolutely. We have enough data. If you take a skeleton of a man and a skeleton of a woman, they're different. The physiology is different. The concussion data is clear that women have 80% more tendency for and risk for a concussion. The recovery is much longer. The menstrual period and the hormone system plays a complete situation at the human being for women. So there is no way that the WBC will move on to 3 minute rounds or extend to 12 rounds, even at 2 minutes at this time, because we are not in a position to put women at a higher risk. Also, it is the opinion from most women also that the fights are very exciting. I don't know if you watched last night from Canada, Clavel against Neri Plata, sensational fight. You don't need 3 minutes. You need great competitive fights and athletes to be safe and go home after the fights.
Absolutely. I just wanted to be clear on that. So now, when it comes to the case of Earl Spence and Keith Thurman, the fight is taking place at 54. Will that still satisfy the mandatory for the WBC, or is that on hold?
Well, that's a fight that the WC ordered, and it's a great fight between two top level fighters. It is not now new that it's going to be over the weight. We will wait until the fight takes place, and we will assess after the event to see what has happened. The WBC has been a strong supporter to see Spence Crawford, and we had all year all the flexibility. When that did not materialize, and Crawford decided to take another fight, the WBC ordered the mandatory, which is Thurman. Now it's in over the 147 division. We will see what happens after the fight.
So when you say you will see what happens, there's a possibility that after the fight, that fight can potentially satisfy the 147-pound mandatory, or is there no way that the rules allow for him to fight above the weight without the title on the line and still satisfy the mandatory?
Well, it will be an official WBC event. That is certain. I don't want to speculate. I just want to see the fight take place. The other ranked fighters, Ortiz, he is committed to another organization. So there is no hurry right now. Let's see what happens in the fight, and then we will assess once we have all the facts of what happened inside the ring.
So my only issue is that what if the unthinkable, I don't want to call it unthinkable because it's boxing, but obviously Earl Spence is a heavy favorite. But if he loses, Keith legitimately was the mandatory, but the belt's not on the line. What happens? Do you even know, or is that something that
Yeah, it has to be with the decision of not only the winner, but both fighters, if they are going to continue in 154 or come back to 147. So that is the main topic. After the fight, maybe Spence decides to stay in 154. Thurman maybe decides to stay 154. We will see what happens.
And just to be clear, because that is a big topic, there is no possible franchise for Spence at 47, right?
No, he has not requested. As you know, the fighter has to make a petition, and then the WBC address it. At this time, there is no franchise in any division, and Spence has not requested any consideration for that.
Now, knowing that you were going to come on the show, we did a little bit of research, and we know that the WBC has ordered some big fights in the past that are not just WBC ranked fighters. You've actually ordered WBC champions specifically versus WBO champions. Not all the times does it happen where they actually have the fight take place, but you have ordered these cases in the case of Sergey Kovalev when he was the WBO champion versus Adonis Stevens, the WBC champion. So I bring up the Canelo and Gennady case as well, that you ordered those fighters to undispute. Is there any way, you being who you are, that you can talk to Paco and force the WBO to mandate Crawford and Earl to fight? I mean, we're getting into the realm where it's almost Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. And we don't want these two guys to lose and we lose this opportunity on over marination or, failed negotiations, I know that you can step in and probably save the day like you've done in the past with Canelo and Golovkin.
It's an interesting topic. We did that experiment. We had a Kovalev group, and we did a mediation. We spoke, and it was determined. So the WBC ordered that fight. We forced our champion into a mandatory against the WBO champion. Very unfortunately, uh, Kovalev pulled out, and I believe they used that.
In that instance, though, Mauricio, I'll remind you, Kovalev pulled out due to having a contract with HBO. In this instance, we got a free agent. So,
No,
Crawford, thank God, won't have any contract with a network.
yes, but that experiment proved the problems of something that was intended in very good faith. Kovalev came to the table and he made it that he made the petition. We worked it out with Stevenson and with Kovalev's sides, and it was proved that Kovalev used that leverage to negotiate a contract with HBO. So in fact, he used the WBC. I don't want to say in bad faith, but it just turned out to be that way, and he went his own way. We work very close with other organizations in many instances, and this is a fight that everybody wants to see. And I have been doing my best effort to try to make it happen, and I will continue to do so.
I will say, just for reference, you do have another case that was successful. Leo Santa Cruz was ordered to face Gary Russell, but the fight didn't happen. But, it was ordered. So
So
I don't
that
know.
that is the thing. You are just giving reason for the explanation. We cannot force a champion from other organization into a mandate. That is a fact. We did it as experiments in good faith, with both fighters blessing both, but it didn't happen. So it is not as easy as you might think, but we are willing and continue to have the flexibility and to try to push for that fight to happen.
So after the convention, we seen the WBC order a couple dozen fights that were amazing. You could have had 2023 on fire had these fighters followed the mandate. I want to know, is Mauricio and the WBC going to, can we think about, not going to do, wrong words, can we think about consequences? I don't think it's fair that Isaac Cruz and his father say, I don't want to fight Shakur even though the WBC ordered me because a fight with him would be boring. And then the next fighter say, you know what? That's a tough fight. I don't want to fight with him. I'm William Cepeda. I'll wait. And then George Camboso, well, I just had two tough fights. I don't want to fight either. And everyone just allows themselves to be skipped over, but they don't lose position. They need to be dropped. They need to have consequences for showing that they don't want to fight for your belt. They don't even want to be in an eliminator, for God's sake. So there needs to be a consequence because this is the most prestigious belt. How do you just say no to an opportunity at a championship title with no consequence? Doesn't make any sense. Maybe there is a consequence and we're not educated enough to know.
I love your passion, and I thank you for your words. Ramirez, he was supposed to fight against Cepeda for the title. He rightfully chose to get his marriage, which was long overdue due to COVID-19. The WC positioned him as mandatory for the winner of Cepeda Pro Grace, and then eventually he pulled out also of that fight, of the fight against Pro Grace. So the consequence was he was dropped down to number 6, I believe. Um, Isaac Cruz, the fight has been ordered. It's still in the order. We have received communications from both sides. There are a bit of strong words between the camps. And we are assessing this matter next week to see what's going to happen. But that would be a sensational fight, Isaac Cruz against Shakur Stevenson. But we are not promoters. We have our guidelines, and we have always tried to have the best mandatory contender online, because for a unified champion or undisputed champion to have a, I don't want to say mediocre, but not the best challenger as a mandatory does not serve the purpose of that rule.
So I don't know if you know, but Top Rank has sent offers to Isaac, William, and now ESPN has reported that they're in negotiations for an April 8th fight in the Prudential Center with Shinshuro Yoshino, who's number 5. So that does mean that 2 people have said no. So
Well,
yeah,
if
just consequences, man. I think that people should, once you work so hard to get there, you shouldn't want to be dropped from those rankings. Sean Porter, it wasn't your sanctioning body, and thank God, because what they did to him was unfair. But as a champion, he lost to Kelbrook, and then they dropped him from the top 15. So that's a bit excessive, but if you don't want to fight, maybe dropping from the top 15 makes sense.
But let me tell you something my father always used to tell me. There's always this version, the other side version, and the truth in the middle. So you have to see both sides. You have to give everyone the opportunity to assess and to communicate. And boxing is complicated. Every promotion is independent. There's no league like football, baseball, basketball, hockey, that there's a structure, there's a calendar, and we just try to do our best to uh, lead fighters to a position to fight in the best circumstances. Sometimes they don't take place. Pacquiao, Mayweather, they met a few years too late, in my opinion.
What would it take for you? I hope because growing up in Mexico, maybe you don't know, but what would it take for you to be the Vince McMahon of boxing? Bring it all together under one roof. Is the WBC big enough? Has enough friends? Can you do that? Is that a goal? Do you even think of that? Or do you just live in your reality and you know that it's too difficult for boxing to be centralized under one league and one commission?
No, boxing is impossible to be in a position like that, because it is the only sport in which the organization has absolutely nothing to do with the business. In NFL, NBA, World Wrestling Entertainment, etc., there's this league, this organization which controls the teams. They sell the franchises, they control the TV rights, the sponsorship, everything that has to do with the sport and the competition. In boxing, when the WBC was founded and formed, it was specifically and very clear that we would not have anything to do with the business side, because that would be a great conflict of interest. So the WBC understands the difficulties, but we are certain that the WBC is the most important organization, the most coveted belt, and our platform worldwide has the world recognition. But we also recognize there are other organizations, because the nature of this sport. If you have networks that demand championship fights, and you have promoters that need to provide the network championship fights, that's how the other organizations have been founded and formed, because of the demand for championship fights. But it is for the fan and the industry to categorize each one. So I don't in any way talk about the other organizations, but we know and we can only respond for what we do. So I feel very proud of the WBC, the history of the WBC. It's Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Pacquiao, Hagler, Hearns, Duran, Chavez, Mayweather, Canelo. So we do our best, but it is a sport that it is not possible to put into one roof, because tomorrow there will be another organization formed, next day another one, one group from England, the other group from the Orient, etc., etc.
So I was at the convention, obviously, and you said in the case of the middleweights that Charlo would get time because he was going through some issues. We seen him come out finally, and then when he came out, he was challenging 168 pounders and 175 pounders. Has there been any communication with you, the WBC, and Charlo? Do we know what his plans are? And what's going to happen with Carlos Adames, who, didn't want to be elevated and instead wanted to wait and fight the champion?
Yes, we have sent a communication to Charlo to assess exactly what is the situation. We did put the interim championship with Adames in order to get the division and to get it straight. Charlo, unfortunately, he had been hoping for a fight with Canelo. He had agreed to fight Munguia. Then it didn't happen. He got injured. So it is a matter, he's a great fighter, a great person, a great friend, a great champion. He deserves the time. Now it's time to address what is going to happen. He has not been in the ring for almost 1 year and a half, and we're just waiting for a response so we can administer the middleweight division.
Is there a timeline on these responses, or are you kind of just, relaxed with that?
No, we're waiting just for a response. There's usually a time where they respond and then we address it. So it'll be a couple of weeks, I would say, at the latest, so we can have the middleweight division on the way with a plan.
Okay. So I got Ruin the 504, kind of something you touched on, but I guess is worded differently. Says, how can Earl Spence go up to 154, fight a guy that is supposed to be his mandatory at 147 and not get stripped? But you said he requested this.
Well, you don't get stripped because he's fighting. He's active. He's fighting the fighter that was mandated. And there's many precedents of champions fighting over the weight, and that's what I was saying before. We After that fight, we will see if he decides to come back to welter. He wants to try super welter. We will see what happens, but it is not against any rule. It is perfectly under the rules, and that's why that fight is going to be a WBC official event.
So again, I'm not trying to get in your pockets or the WBCs, but just to be clear, he still has to pay sanctioning then for the fight.
Well, it's an official WBC fight, and the WBC will certainly sanction the fight. Yes.
Okay. So then it's a mandatory in some form. It's just out of the weight class. I mean, because if you're sanctioning it, he's paying the fee. The fight is. So another question someone had is, will there be I'm horrible with that word, but you made a Earl belt. You made, you always make special belts for special occasions. Any special belt for this fight, being as though that the 47 technically is not on the line?
I don't believe so. Usually we do, May 5th and September 16th for a reason, June 19th for the Juneteenth, the Freedom Belt, but other belts that are done as a special trophy for a great event are usually requested by the promoters, the fighters. It is agreed and it is happened. For this fight, nothing has been discussed at this time, but those belts are trophies. They are not championships. So I think it's clear. It gives a added value and just a beautiful art, but it has no essence of.
Significance?
It has significance, but no repercussion. It's not a championship.
And at 54, is there any silver? Because the interim is Sebastian Fundura. Is the silver vacant? And is there any possibility? Because Earl is still your champion, and if he's not going to move down, he's going to be highly ranked at 54 anyway. So, I don't know, just making sure, trying to cross all my T's before you're gone.
Well, these are this part of these discussions are, and I like it. It's like fans trying to do fantasy matches, which is adorable. I like that. Um, Very unfortunately, Charlo injured, and he will not fight Sue at this time. We don't know if that fight is going to be taking place at a later date. We will address that. We have Tony Harrison is a silver champion, and Fundora is the interim champion. Why did we order interim championship for Fundora? Because we wanted to make sure that the ultimate unification for the undisputed took place, which was a rematch between Charlo and Castaño, which was a sensational fight. They drew in the first one, so we made everything possible for the second one. It was a great fight, and now Charlo is the undisputed champion. So these moves have a reason. They have a administration, and at the end is basically to give the best fans that are possible for to benefit for the industry and the fans and the boxers and the promoters and everyone.
All right. I have Trav FDY in Texas says, would the WBC put the clean boxing program information on its site with the fighters' names and dates tested so we can see who's being tested and how often? Is that information available, and could it be made available to the public, or is that, confidential?
No, it's not confidential. We often send out reports, but that's a good idea. The clean boxing program has been working very, very hard, efficiently. Last year, we did over 550 tests, and it is something that is a top priority of the WBC. And I will look into that to see if we can create a microsite inside the WBC page where the information of the clean boxing program is. Nothing
I
is hidden, nothing is private, so it has no why not, we could have it there, yes.
James Valdez says, I personally feel, from San Antonio, excuse me, I personally feel like you've been doing a great job with the WBC. My question, what's
Thank
some of your memorable moments since this endeavor?
um I have been in boxing since I can remember. uh Maybe he refers since I have been president. My father passed away 9 years ago on Monday, and a month
My
later I was.
condolences.
Thank you. Uh, a month later, I was elected president, and I think the clean boxing program is one of my biggest prides. The Even though some fans and media don't like the franchise designation, worked sensational in super welter, in lightweight, and super fly. Today, there's no franchise. Um, the unity of boxing. We have kept the WBC as united with the same principles, with the same values that my father had with his peers, and just the great relationship that I personally enjoy, and as an organization with the champions before, during, and after their years of glory. I feel very happy being in boxing, and it just has great moments, great memories all the time.
Speaking of the clean boxing program, any updates on Conor Benn, who feels he's being put on the shelf and that there's no reason this should be taking this long, he said publicly, and he's asking the WBC to help him?
Well, he can fight. He's free to fight.
Oh,
He's
okay.
not in any way suspended.
Oh,
The WBC has the obligation to do the whole process. Um, we received a document from his team, which I made. I mentioned it publicly, 270 pages, and within that document, there are many matters that need further investigation and action. So this is nothing that can be simply resolved by sympathy or by saying X, Y, or Z. You have to go into the facts because there are legal implications as well. So we will have to take all the time necessary. And to give you an example, we received that document, we sent back a letter to the lawyers, and it took 3 weeks for them to respond. So it is not that we have stalled the case. We are actively working on it, and we're just following the protocol.
Okay. I have Brandon in Houston that says, "Hi, Mauricio. Thanks for coming on. Can Inoue petition to the WBC to move up and fight your 122-pound champion, Stephen Fulton? If so, how soon would that be addressed?"
Well, very soon. He's a great champion. He did send a letter to the WBC announcing his vacating of the bantamweight and his desire to compete in super bantamweight in the WBC. So we are addressing that matter, and that would be a sensational match if it's done.
So going back to the Ben, there was some speculation, rumors on the internet that the contamination was to blame on the behalf of VADA. Any truth to that?
That's
And I mean the
that's
contamination of Ben's sample.
that's something I cannot respond because it has the legal implications that I referred to. That's why a complete investigation has to take place, and anything I say would be just simply speculation.
Got you, got you. Well, I think we're wrapping up. I got uh Houston. He says, "Will the winner of Benavides Plant be named Canelo's mandatory?"
Yes, the winner of that fight will be the mandatory of the WBC in the super middleweight division. We are assessing Canelo's recovery after his surgery and therapeutic treatment, and we will see what are the plans. At this time, we have to wait for the fight to take place, and then we will see during the time to order the mandatory for the division.
And normally the rules state that it would be 12 months after the fight, right? So it's not like we're getting it in the
No,
same year.
no, because Canelo's mandatory took place. Uh, when he won the WBC super middleweight, it was
Versus
complete.
Yeardom.
It was no against Callum Smith.
Okay.
Then he did Yildirim, which was the mandatory at that time, which I already addressed. It was. I feel very sorry for that. It should have been a great fight. It was not. And then we all agreed he embarked in a goal to become undisputed. So everything was open for that. Last year he did fight over the weight, and then that's why we order Benavides to fight an interim title, and then the Triple G fight was already on the schedule. So everything has been processed, and we're just waiting. It should be a great year in that division as well.
Now, Charles Conwell just fought, I want to say it's for a version of the WBC beneath the interim. There is some rumors that the order of Harrison and Fondora isn't happening. According to Sampson himself, he's saying Tony Harrison doesn't want it. I spoke to Harrison, and, when I sent them the video and, the audio, and I'm like, champ, Sampson is saying you don't want the fight. He said, let him think that. So, that's all he gave me. Have you heard if they are coming into an agreement? Are we not getting Harrison Fondora in that eliminator? And can we somehow get Conwell, who just stepped up?
Yeah, Conwell fought a semifinal elimination, a official WBC sanctioned bout, but without being a final elimination or anything that would give him any specific rights for the future. Basically, what happened in Acapulco, you were there, it was awkward because Tony Harrison is a trainer of Alicia Baumgartner. So when the WBC approved a, a, a title defense for Fundora, because Charlo was going to fight Sue, she stepped up and she mentioned Harrison and in a way portray that she would represent him officially. But that is something that has to be cleared up. To be clear, Harrison is in a great position. He's the number one contender, and he will be addressed in one way or another. It is what people say. It's easy, you can read it, and it can be said, but it has to be everything documented. So we have sent the letters to every single weight category, everything that was discussed at the convention. As soon as we, I don't know if you saw the report we sent maybe 2 weeks ago, it fully outlines the year, and things happen throughout the year, and we update that, and we make that release so everything is transparent. We will see what the Harrison situation is, the Fundora and the Charlo. It's a good division, active, but there are things that have to be addressed and resolved.
I'm sorry to double back to this, but obviously this is live, and people continue to want to know something that I'm sure you answered when you said that you would assess it after the fight with Earl. But if Earl, I mean, if Keith loses, he loses his mandatory status as well, because regardless of weight class, correct?
I don't want to speculate. I don't want to. I already made it very clear. Win or lose, we will see both fighters if they want to continue in welterweight or move up in super welterweight. So be patient. As fan, I am a big sports fan. I understand the questions and I appreciate them, and it helps us to see the interest in topics. But we have to be, uh, take the time and let the things happen. So there are facts where we can administrate and make the rulings.
I guess finally, and lastly, Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, have you gotten any update? You've mandated that. There has been some rumors of a possible March, April, but nothing solid. Are we getting that mandated, ordered fight?
Well, I hope so. I surely hope so. Both are great former champions. The winner will create a WBC mandatory of the highest stature. So I hope that fight takes place. Yes.
All right. Let me just refresh, make sure I don't leave any of these people behind, but I do think we might be done. And I want to appreciate you, obviously, for taking out the time to answer the questions. And that's what I was telling them before you came on. No matter how tough the questions are, you always come back. No matter what ruling the WBC has, you never hide. You're always around to, educate us when we think we know more than you on the situation. And again, you never shy away, So I just appreciate you and everything that you do. It looks like we did get to everything, so thank you. If you want to
Thank
give
you.
out your social media, please do so.
Yes, yes. And thank you for the opportunity. I love to be in contact with the fans. And you have been always clear, solid. You are tough, and we have had discussions, but always friendly and with respect. So these forums help me very much. I like it very much. We have the 60th anniversary coming up. This year is the WBC 60th anniversary. Many celebrations. Foreman became WBC champion 50 years ago. Chavez sold out the Aztec Stadium 30 years ago, and many things happen. So we're going to be very active in celebrating life through boxing this year. It's time to get to football, enjoy the NFL. I'm a big Cowboys fan, and I hope we have some luck on Monday night.
Are you back in Acapulco for the 60th?
No, no, no. Right now we have Kazakhstan as the site. However, the developments regarding war, we will see what will happen.
Before
We'll,
you go, Tio and Regis. Before you go, Tio and Regis, because Tio seems to think that he can't fight Regis because of Probellum, but Probellum put on an event with Marv Nation in LA. There was no issues there. Regis won the belt from Cepeda. What's your thoughts on T.O. Regis?
Great fight. I don't get involved in he say, I say, she said, whatever. Let's see. Hopefully it will happen, and it's a great fight. Now Regis has a voluntary because Ramirez pulled out, and we will see what happens in the near future.
All right, Mauricio, thank you so much. Go and enjoy the rest of the day, and appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The president of the WBC, always stepping up to the plate. Look, man, hate him or love it, at least he answers the question. What up, YouTube family? Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us get to that 1 million subscribers. We're on the road to 1 million. And obviously, we have other great content on our Patreon channel. So since this video is over, head on over to our Patreon and check out all the exclusive content or right here on our YouTube members.